1, 2, 3.
Hello, welcome to Rock the Cash Bar. I'm Ben Mowbray.
And I'm Diane Gallagher.
Every week we pick one song and do a deep dive into the lyrics and explain the different ways they've been interpreted.
We will also discuss how the song connected to us on a personal level, focusing on all the embarrassing details.
Glad to have you here. Enjoy the show. Diane, I was talking to a young man last night who told me that he got into heavy metal music because he was a very horny teenager. And I'd never thought of that or heard that before. Like, it was just like I asked him, because I ask every heavy metal guy, like, how did you get into that? Like, why do you enjoy it so much? And just like, well, I was just a really horny kid. I was like, what? Like, heavy metal is the most sexless music I could possibly imagine. What do you mean you were horny?
Girls, what you talking about?
That's hair metal. That's different. That's a totally different thing. I'm talking about like the angry crunching, like that's what I was thinking of.
Pantera.
It totally, I was just like, well, you can call me JFK because my head just exploded. It was insane. I was 4:00 in the morning. We were closing down the bar and I couldn't make any sense of it. It just, I didn't know. I don't think of heavy metal as sexy. And he absolutely did. It was like, well, what do you turn up the heavy metal music if she'll let you. Like, no, I'm a no music guy.
Okay. I'm like, maybe some R&B, some Jodeci. Like, I don't know. It depends on what type of horny you are, I guess.
I guess I'm a very mild type of horny.
You like this.
You don't fuck to the Smiths. It's rude.
murder.
Disrespectful to poor Morrissey. Morrissey can't come. You can't come.
Okay.
We've got a guest today. It's been a little while since we had a guest in. We've got an excellent comedian, JT Habersaat. JT, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You are all the way from
I
San
also don't
Francisco,
think of heavy
California.
metal as sexy music.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm in San Fran this weekend. Yeah. What's that?
Sorry, let's back up a second. Heavy metal is sexy?
No, I don't think it is either, but it can be. Not to start off all name droppy, but I did some shows with Henry Rollins, and he does this hilarious story about how he used to live next door in LA to a bunch of gay dudes, and the whole cheap apartment, and he would hear them having sex all day long, so he would provide the soundtrack for them, and he would always play falsetto metal like this, yeah, shit. So it was always like Living After Midnight or Iron Maiden or something like that. And so I was laughing the whole time you were talking about that being like a horny awakening for this guy. I was like, well, maybe, I don't know which way he swings, but that's
Well, I'm gonna say I watched some gay porn, and I think it goes. It's a little rough.
Yeah, Rob Halford would probably agree also.
Yes.
Hellbent for leather and all that, but yeah, I would think hair metal, maybe like the Warrant Cherry Pie video is like ridiculously adolescent boy fantasy nonsense
For sure. Yeah.
But also Henry called them the sexy pirates of rock, which was always hilarious to me. they always had the headbands made out of someone's nightie.
That's
anyway, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. I was so excited because this is episode 133, and I'm like, how did we go this far without doing Jane's Addiction? Because this is just in my wheelhouse of the bands I loved, in high school in the 90s.
Yeah, I'm such a music fan that it was a hard thing when you were like, pick a song.
Yeah. And
same. We're probably similar Gen X, but Jane's Addiction was my band in high school. They were the ones that really blew my head apart. And it's still great they're doing stuff, but that period of a few records, Nothing Shocking and Ritual, are just like magic and are flawless albums. So yeah, I was like, wow, no one's done Jane's yet? Cool.
Yeah, it's what's funny is I had the Nothing Shocking t-shirt in junior high, and you can't wear that to school. It has flaming women with tits on it.
I did, despite my mom's objections, but yeah.
Yes. So I thought I was going to be cool as shit. And on the last day of school in 8th grade, I was like, I'm wearing it. Like, what are they going to do? It's the last day of school. And I have all these pictures. Everybody takes pictures on the last day of school. And I'm so proud of myself, like wearing this shirt in school. And
That's
there's
all.
all these pictures from the morning. But it was like, the bell rang to like, okay, get out of the cafeteria and go to first period. And like a counselor saw me and was like, Diane, no. Turn it inside out.
Yeah,
But I have picture proof
my
that
mom was not stoked on that. And I had to explain to her, I'm like, it's a statue, and here's why art is important. Like as an obnoxious 9th grader, and how censorship was wrong and all this high horse shit. And then I would wear it to school, and I was begging someone to bust me for it so that I could make a big issue about it. And no one ever did. And then my brother, who's about 3 years younger, got busted for wearing a Primus You Suck t-shirt. And I was really annoyed that he got like the controversy.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm wearing naked women on fire over here, and that shirt just says you suck. And then he got all the glory for fighting the man. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
You know, it's so funny. I'll tell the story real quick before we get into it. I wrote down, like, don't forget to talk about your shirt. And then I swear to God, I don't know how I got this so wrong, but I had the Ministry Jesus Built My Hot Rod shirt that just had like the motor.
Oh, nice.
And
the motor. Yeah.
I thought, I can't
The
remember
white one,
now.
yeah.
I thought someone had told me that there was like an obvious penis like camouflaged into the motor, and being like proud that I wore that to school and no one knew that I had like a dick on my shirt. And I went back to pull up the photo to look at it, and I'm like, there is no dick on this anywhere. I couldn't even
Plausible,
pretend to make one.
Yeah. Given Ministry and the Butthole Surfers collaboration on that song, that's definitely plausible. I remember I was really into, and still am into, the band Tool. And I remember they had a shirt which was a wrench with 2 smaller wrenches. That was definitely the most phallic thing I've ever seen. And at the time I was like, what? It's a wrench. And now I'm like, good God, that is not.
All right, so tell us why, out
Yeah.
of all of Jane's Addiction songs, why did you choose 3 Days?
That song is, I mean, at the time when I was discovering that band, obviously Nothing Shocking came out before Ritual de la Habitual, and Ritual has 3 Days on it. But Nothing Shocking like blew my mind apart. And they were getting a lot of comparisons, though. I remember to Led Zeppelin, like music critics were like, oh, it's the new Led Zeppelin or whatever. And I was never a big Zeppelin fan. So I was always kind of like, what do you mean? I don't get that. But now looking back, like 3 Days, there's definitely parallels to some Zeppelin stuff in terms of the epic scope of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just a haunting, amazing song. The fact that it's like 10 minutes long, which can be
Very Zeppelin.
that can be a sign. Yeah, I mean, that can be a sign of bloated prog, or even best intentions. It's like, ooh, 10 minutes. All right. A lot, but I mean, that it's just if it was less than that, it wouldn't be what it is. It's like the song needs to be that long.
And it doesn't feel like 10
and I just
minutes.
really
Every time
love
you listen to it, it flies by.
It flies by, and it's just that is a song you can't be passive and listen to that song. I've never put, I put Jane's Addiction on or on my headphones if I'm mowing the lawn or driving in my car or whatever. But 3 Days is a song I stop and listen to that song. You can't just do something else and have that in the background. It's a song that just kind of smacks you in the face. And the fact that it's kind of, it feels like you're reading Perry's diary, because it's about him having his girlfriend and like this other woman over for this, sensual encounter for like 3 days. And it just, he just paints the picture with everything, the lyrics, everything, just amazing. And it gives each musician a chance to shine. Dave Navarro's solo on that is incredible.
It was listed as number 100 in the top 100 solos of all time at one point. Where I'm like, don't tell me I was last.
At least 90 of those can fuck right off, because I guarantee you, it is some bloated Rush single with 5 necks on the guitar or something. So
Yeah.
also that song, a lot of people don't know that song was recorded in the first take. That is the first take of 3 Days. That was recorded pretty much straight to tape like that.
We've done a lot of
which is incredible
episodes
to
like
think about.
that where we're like, this song came out in one take. I think Time After Time was that was
Mhm.
Cyndi Lauper's demo. That was one take, and lots of other songs we've
Yeah,
done
okay.
that were one takes, and we're like, just trust it if it's good.
Just capture that magic of it. But now, like, it's that chicken and the egg thing of like, well, was that just the magic take, or do we not know any better because we never got additional takes? It could have been something better or different. But I don't know. That song is flawless to me, though. I don't know. I don't want to nitpick it because it's just the crescendo of it too, the way it builds slow, and then by the time the guitar solo and the Stephen Perkins drumming is bananas on that song, and
Yep.
it's just like this ocean wave crash, this
Yeah.
complete. And then they take it down a little bit. They do this weird down tempo part in the middle, and then slowly build it back up again. It's such a fucking magic trick of a song. I don't know. It's just an amazing track to me.
Yeah,
It's definitely a sonic sex metaphor for sure. Like even like obviously like building to the crescendo, definitely. But even as you talk about, like as it slows down, it's just like, well, I'm ready, but she's not. Think about
that's funny because I always took it as
listen to her breathing.
I always took it as that was the we finished crescendo and then let's go again. So, but we all have different experiences.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, oh, JT, you stud.
Yeah, Perry talks about
I don't know.
a lot
And the fact that it was
song.
based on like real events and stuff.
Sorry, there's a
Yeah.
lag between us, so there's
Yeah,
gonna be
and
a
so
lot of crosstalk. We'll get over it.
It happens. Yeah, the magic of Zoom.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just an incredible track, and the production on both those albums is flawless. I think like it just really sounds sonically like nothing else.
Mhm.
And they also have never been able to really recapture it. I know they're still doing stuff, and they've released some other records that aren't great. And yeah, I don't know. There's something magic about that lineup too. Like I know Eric Avery, the bassist, is not on good terms with them. I saw them. I was lucky enough. This sounds like a crazy story. I got somehow invited to a Playboy Mansion party. Not at the mansion, but it was Playboy Mansion party. That was a private Jane's Addiction original lineup show.
Whoa.
Yeah, in Austin it was about 2011, 2009, somewhere where they did that first full original lineup reunion tour thing. And so I got to see them play with like 500 people in this. They rented out an abandoned grocery store. Playboy Mansion. And so it was just like Playboy bunnies and fucking Jane's Addiction playing the original lineup. And that show was like blow your head apart, amazing. And I've seen Jane's a few times since then when they have the different bassists, and it's not the same.
No.
It's just Eric Avery adds, and if you listen to, he did a lot of arranging on those songs. He did like Mountain Song and a lot of Up the Beach and stuff like that. It's all Eric Avery arrangements. And so there's something about that lineup that's just, so that friction that makes a diamond, maybe even, because him and Perry were really not friends.
Mm-hmm.
This song really shine, like all the instruments shine, and it really does. The way it starts off with that bass, and then Dave's guitar solo, and then Perry's just always great. I love his vocals. I never know how to describe it, but it should be annoying and grating, but it's not. It's wonderful.
It's otherworldly. He's a guy that I remember I read a review of Nothing Shocking before I think it was like Rolling Stone, actually, back when Rolling Stone mattered at all. And it said that Perry Farrell sounds like a goddamn alien. And I was like, yeah, he kind of does. He sounds like this weird shamanistic alien, and it's people would try to be like, oh, it's nasally. I'm like, not really.
Not really.
It's not like Rush nasally. It's not like Cypress Hill nasally. It's just otherworldly. It's this weird shriek with melody. I don't even, yeah. So Perry's incredible. I'm a huge fan of Porno for Pyros too. Like they're doing reunion shows now, and I'm honestly more excited to see that, the original Porno for Pyros lineup, than Jane's.
Yeah.
But yeah, incredible. And the fact that Perry's now 63 is amazing to me too.
Whoa.
I mean, talk about yeah, he's 63 years old. And a group of individuals that were not destined to all survive. I mean,
No, that's actually
Stephen
really
Perkins was the only. It's amazing. I mean, Stephen the drummer was the only one who never really got into heroin and stuff out of all of them. And the fact that they're all still alive, much less making music, is pretty incredible.
wow. That maybe he is an alien. Maybe there's something to that.
Maybe so. He talks about outer space a lot too. So he's a weird cat.
All right, let's get into these lyrics because they're kind of long. But I will say, like, I know the story of what he's talking about. But if you were just reading this on paper like it was poetry, you might get a little confused. And it made me think of that quote from "Oh Brother, We're Out There." We're out there. I can't talk today. You know what I'm saying? It's a fool that looks for logic in the chambers of the human heart. And I was like, I think it's a fool that looks for logic in the poetry of a heroin addict in mourning. Because I was reading some of this, like, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, this is how poetic heroin addicts like make sense of death.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that. Like, I've never done heroin, but it does have that same vibe as like Lou Reed songs where it feels heroin-y. I don't know. It's just like what you'd imagine heroin to be, like this kind of lush body coma or whatever. I don't know. Like this is one of the songs that I definitely get that too. Like I know what you're saying exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's like a sinking into the couch kind of number, even though you have to throw your body around.
Yeah.
You know, like it's both things. You know, it's almost like wrap a blanket around you and do the Hunter S. Thompson thing by the beach, flapping your wings.
Right. Exactly. And there's very few bands that can do that. Like, you know, like definitely the Velvet Underground could do that. I think the Jesus and Mary Chain can do that. On like Just Like Honey or something like that. But there's that's a very distinct thing to make, you know, someone be like, oh yeah, you can't really do a song and be like, oh, I think I know what it feels like to do acid now. Like, I mean, maybe the Flaming Lips could pull that off or something. But you know, like that's an interesting thing to be like, oh, I think I get it. I think I get this smack thing. Yeah.
We're never gonna get into these lyrics, but it reminded me, if you saw that movie Mask, the one with the guy Eric Stoltz, Mask, and he's teaching the blind girl how to see colors.
Oh, like, yeah.
Like something's hot, and he's like, "That's red," and something, you know, he gives her cotton. And he's like, "Those are clouds," and she's like, "Oh my god, I get it." And it's Laura Dern. That's how I'm like, "Oh my god, I feel heroin. I get it."
Very feral.
Well, in Laura Dern's defense, he could also just inject her with heroin. And then she'd go, I guess.
Totally feel it.
And the image of Rocky Denison injecting Laura Dern with heroin is very funny to me. Yeah.
That's great. All right, let's do it. Let's get into these lyrics, Ben.
Okay. There's an intro poem that's kind of like the spoken word that I think really sort of sets the stage. Like you might miss what the song is about.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And everything that I read was just like, because I listened to it as closely as I could, but most of the lyric sites that I went to were just like, you can't really tell. This is the closest that we've come. So the opening poem is, at this moment, you should be with us, feeling like we do, like you love to, but never will again. I miss you, my dear Xiola. I prepared the room tonight with Christmas lights, a city of candles, fresh sheets. I love this because that's definitely a young dude thing to do, or a very, you know what I mean? Like, here's a guy, he has his girlfriend.
The Christmas
Casey.
lights? Yeah.
Yeah. He's got his girlfriend, Casey Niccoli, and his other girlfriend, Xiola, is coming into town for her father's funeral. And obviously they've agreed that they're going to spend, 3 days together. and it's clearly going to be a sexy tryst. So he's obviously spent the day before setting up the candles, putting up the Christmas lights. Everything's going to be perfect for my ladies. It's definitely, it's kind of Perry Farrell on a bearskin rug.
Well,
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know about the dead father part. That's weird.
Yeah.
that adds a morose element. But also, I mean, I think that kind of makes sense a little bit too, in a Perry sort of way. That could be his version of comforting a friend, you know, like, I don't know.
well, this sounds like he says this because he says, "I miss you, my dear Xiola," which means she's because sorry, spoiler, Xiola dies. She's dead. And he's remembering like these 3 days with her, but this poem seems to start when like she's already dead because he's saying, "I miss you." And is he preparing the room as it was the 3-day weekend that they had this lovers drug-induced threesome?
Yeah, I think I mean, you
Good
can take it both
question.
ways. I think he's either
Yeah.
remembering, you know, that when he actually did it for those 3 days, or like you say, you know, he's doing it again to remember her, to sort of honor her. But yeah, it definitely does feel like this poem is written after her death.
Yeah, that's an interesting note too, because, you know, Jane from Jane Says is also dead.
Yes.
You know, and so, yeah, maybe he looks back and writes, you know, because that is a very like in the now song, and she was dead way by the time that song was written.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, no,
Yeah.
wild.
And I read
That's how-
that Xiola died from heroin, right, when she was 18.
Probably.
So I'm like, so she was
She was 18?
underage? Yeah, so I think she was underage when they had their threesome, which I was like, were they all
Huh, I didn't know
underage? Because
that.
that's okay. But
Mhm.
I mean, it was the
Yeah, I know.
90s or 80s. It's fine.
it was a different time. Huh.
Fresh sheets, we are filled with dense clouds that have us sunk into the mattress. That's very heroin, that have us sunk into the mattress. I need to touch your skin. An alien she was. No one made friends as easily as Xiola. Drug pushing constructors. We were always the audience that plagued her. I really like that line. We were always the audience that plagued her. Like, that seems like that's very much like the tortured artist, right? Like, I'm just trying to please the audience and I can never quite get it right. Like, is it like every time you write a joke or you write a sentence, or I imagine like you make a painting or something like that, you got to be like, it's not quite the way I wanted it, but does the audience like it? No, they don't like it either. Like, there's that real like sort of push pull where you're trying to decide like who's unsatisfied. How many times have you had a joke that gets a great response, but you fucking hate it? Like, either you're sick of it, or you wish you didn't have to do it.
Yeah, there's definitely get sick of it. There's definitely stuff where it's like, well, I know this is going to work and I need to do it to get the room on my side or whatever, just the mechanics of the job. But
Yeah.
I more find there's the other way. And Eddie and I joke about this too, because there's just certain bits that you like personally that I know is going to dig a bit of a hole and be an audience divider. But I just like it. It just makes me laugh. And sometimes you got to give yourself that gift.
Yeah.
You know, Eddie does this joke that he said, it's a one-liner, and he doesn't do one-liners typically, but he said, you know, things are getting so bad out there, a lot of people have started living in their motorcycles. And it never works. It never gets a laugh. And I tell him every time, I'm like, that never works. He's like, I know, but I just think it should. And so he doesn't do it every night, but he will bring it into sets. We did a festival in Rhode Island called the Rogue Island Comedy Festival last year. And it was a big fest, and he was closing, and he closed on that, and it got nothing.
Yes.
It was a festival crowd, dead crickets. And he said, that never works. Well, good night. And I fell off my chair laughing. He closed on nothing. And I was cackling like a Macbethian witch. That's also, I mean, we did the punchline last night, and he did some dark thing about murder TV shows or something. And I cackled because it's too dark for the room, but I laughed. And he will call me out. He's like, that's my friend JT supporting me. And yeah, I mean, there's certain things you just have to do for yourself and say fuck the audience. But vice versa. Like there's certainly you can't be so indulgent too, where you just dig yourself a hole. I mean, you can, I guess, but then you're not going to get booked again. You got to do the job, right?
Right.
Which is make people laugh.
That just reminded me back in the old Laugh Stop days, Fairbanks was in town and he was on stage and me and Kristen Linder were in the little side hallway and he did it's so dumb, but it made me laugh. He was like, why does Snoop Dogg carry an umbrella? And he said, for drizzle. Nobody,
Oh, Jesus.
nobody laughed but me and
Chris should
Kristen
be
Linder.
ashamed of himself for
We
that.
were dying because it was so bad and so funny. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Sometimes the stupidity and the obviousness
Yes.
is so hilarious.
I'm like,
And
it's
it's just,
funny
like, right
because
there.
it's ridiculous. And I was mad
Yeah.
at the audience for not just being silly. I'm like, get silly with him, okay? Get on his level.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, just as a comic watching a friend comic, sometimes when they dig a hole, it's the funniest thing in the
It's
world to me.
best.
Because you just know from doing the job, like what's going on. And you're like, oh man, you're just going down and I feel for you. But this is hilarious to me and every comic in here.
Oh,
And everyone else in the crowd is like, what are you laughing at? Because it's just like, I'm watching my friend eat shit. That's what I'm laughing at. And trying to see how they're going to try and stick the landing.
And he has 20 more minutes to go.
I know, they're just hanging out on the vine dying. And it's this sadistic friend in you is just like, and then you pat him on the back afterwards and commiserate. But
And they're
good
like,
God, it's
I'm
just,
gonna go kill
and
myself in a
It
park.
never goes away. Yeah, and no matter what level you're on, you mentioned Stanhope. Like I've seen Doug have sets where he's just going to war with people. The magic just isn't there that night, or any comic. It never goes away. You hear about Chappelle.
It was the best with
doing-
Rouse. Oh my God.
Oh, Roust. Oh my God. I did Austin with Doug on Rouse/show in Austin before he passed away and everything. And Rouse would not get off the stage.
Oh,
He would not leave. He went up there. I was doing 20. Rouse was supposed to do 20, and then Doug headlining. And at a venue called the Mohawk in Austin, I think it was like 900 people. And Rouse would not get off. He just would not get off this. Doug had to get up and say, like, all right, you're done, and take the mic. He did like 35 minutes and completely lost the crowd. It was like just quiet Rouse time by the time Sean was a fucking original, man. That dude, I love most of the Unbookables and do not like 5%. But Sean was really a special kind of comic. He definitely, when he was on, there was nobody on his kind of not give a fuck level.
Oh, he would
So
get
I
off
definitely miss having
stage
that dude around.
after something like that. He would get off stage and with that evil Sean grin and just be like, "Oh, I punished him. I punished him." The best.
He sure did. I've never seen Doug get up and say, okay, you're done, and take the mic away from someone before, but that's what he did. It was wild.
All right, let's get into the beginning of the song.
3 days by
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
3 days was the morning. My focus 3 days on my head landed to the sound of cricket voice.
3 days was the morning. My focus 3 days old. My head had landed to the sound of cricket bows. Ooh. I'm a proud man anyway, covered now by 3 days. So he's celebrating a little bit. He's got 2 ladies in his bed. He's feeling pretty good about himself.
Well, if he's
Three-way-
looking back, is this proud of the time they had together? That's why I was always trying to figure out what's he proud of here.
Oh, he's proud of the love he made. He's proud of the trust he built. He's proud of that. He's proud of banging 2 women at once while he was high on drugs, Diane.
Sure.
It's a big feeling in a man's life. I guess. I don't know. I've never had
told.
a 3-day sex orgy.
Dear Penthouse Forum.
3 ways
3 ways was the morning, 3 lovers in 3 ways. We knew when she landed, 3 days she'd stay. So he's talking about his longtime girlfriend, Casey Niccoli, and obviously awaiting the arrival of this woman, Xiola Blue, who was evidently very fetching and an artist who's reminded Perry Farrell of his mother and all kinds of, anyway.
Shadows of the morning light, shadows of the evening sun, till the shadows and the lights were
It's problematic.
We saw shadows of the morning light, the shadows of the evening sun, till the shadows and the light were one. So he's definitely describing about how it lasted all day long. He could really
Very
do it.
poetic.
Which
Mhm.
also, yeah, to pause on that, like when you read that out loud like that, I'm struck by how without the Perry's voice and without the music, that sounds like 8th grade poetry. You know,
Yes.
like shadows of the morning and shadows of the morning, like
Yep.
until the night and shadows there both were one. It sounds like a very like introduction to poetry attempt, but within the confines of the song and with everything around it, it sounds magical and works. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
it's fantastic.
that's interesting to hear. Just
Sometimes when we isolate the lyrics from the sound and the feeling, it really does detract from them. Like I didn't mean to sound like I was like condescending or anything like that. I think
No,
the
I didn't
lyrics
think
were
you did at
wonderful. They
all.
were great. They create the scene perfectly. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
without the drums, without the guitar, without that
just
sonic.
hearing them bold red like that, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
Yep.
we had that with another band who very similar, makes you feel like you're on heroin, Mazzy Star. When we did Fade Into You, we kind of had the same feeling of like, this is, you know, like a little girl's diary.
And it's important to remember that Perry Farrell is a very young man writing about this, and he's writing about some very deep stuff. You know, like he's not like, I'm making jokes about him, you know, sleeping with 2 women and being like a braggadocious dude about it. That doesn't feel like what he was at all. You know, he's an artist.
No, I don't think so.
Very sensitive. You know, he's
right.
And he's writing about drugs and love and sex and what I would have been the greatest 3 days of his life. You know.
You know, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it doesn't come off too boastful.
No, and at 45, if I had like a 3-day threesome on heroin and then wrote the song on heroin, it probably wouldn't be this good.
Yeah.
It would be bad.
Well,
Only
first
one
of all,
way to find out, Diane.
as someone who's also in their mid 40s, to have a 3-day threesome on heroin at this point, to then have the gall to also say I'm going to write a song is too much. That's overachieving. You take a nap. You maybe make some eggs.
I gotta get
rehydrate.
I gotta get my kid on the bus. Hold on, I gotta write this.
You do your things. Yeah, you know, you check Twitter. You don't write a 10-minute epic. Yeah.
Heroin is not as sexy at 45 as it is when you're 18. It's just not.
That's probably true. Also.
Shadows.
Well,
of
a
the
lot of
morning
heroin
light.
addicts don't find that out.
Shadows of the morning light, the shadows of the evening sun, till the shadows and the light were one. True hunting is over, no herds to follow. Without game, men prey on each other. Ooh. I was kind of like wondering if that was sort of the dude brain expanding a little bit. Like here he is with 2 women, as if he's taken all women away from all the other men everywhere.
Is that what it feels like in a threesome?
Yeah.
With 2
He's
girls?
the only man who gets to mate. So without game, the men are going to have to prey on each other.
Maybe. I mean, he's also like got that shaman thing. You know, he's a very mystical cat. You know, and you know, you have to remember too, Perry back then, long ass dreadlocks and very gaunt, and he was a unique looking dude. And you don't get that kind of white guy with dreadlocks, patchouli, corny guy. You get very like that is the real deal with him. You know, you believe it.
Yeah,
Well,
he's
it
the
At
wasn't
least I
lead.
did.
It wasn't
It
lead
seems
singer
very,
of Soul Asylum dreadlocks, or whatever that guy had going on with his hair. It was his own thing.
with Winona Ryder living in them.
This was
Gross
like
ass Dave Perner hair. Ugh.
this was Coolio before Coolio dreadlocks. What he was doing.
That's funny too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Perry definitely had the Coolio a little bit later on those reunion tours.
yeah. Well, so they say that this song is a three-part song that meditates on death and rebirth. So I'm always like, okay, when we do rebirth after the guitar solo, yeah? So are we about to get into rebirth? We're closing the door on death here.
I think we're closing the door on
Yeah.
death here, but I think the rebirth is the last verse. You know,
Okay.
when he gets in, or the repetition, because it's in a few lines where he goes, the family weakens by the bite we swallow. That's very gloom and doomy and deathy. True leaders gone of land and people. We choose no kin but adopted strangers. How often have you laid in bed with somebody and cuddled with them and thought, you're an adopted stranger? We're awfully close, but
Well,
a
according to
long way
Pornhub,
apart.
quite a bit.
I mean, what are we doing?
Adopted step stranger.
I said we're one more.
think
I
it's
don't know
its
if you
own
guys are
genre.
watching the new House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones stuff, but I was like, we're like 2 more episodes until like we are programmed to like this, to where Pornhub just drops the word step. Like
Yeah.
we're almost
Yeah, I don't know where this weird, not to side, I don't know where this weird taboo, like incestuous shit came from. I don't know when
it
that
won't go
was somehow
away.
decided by the algorithms as like a thing that everyone is into, because I'm sure not.
No.
It deeply
But hey.
upsets me because and here's a confession to make. I like older women. So if you search for older women, like all you get is stepmom, 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 and it makes me so mad. Like all my favorite performers are just like stepmom, stepmom, stepmom. Damn.
Right.
Oh, that's great. I love
Divorced
finding
people and your divorced children are spoiling the fun for the rest of us pure-hearted masturbators.
Oh, it's good.
Uh,
It's got to end. It's been too many years. Let's go with a new
funny.
thing.
Come on,
you sound
real estate
legitimately
agents.
upset.
Finish the job, real estate agents.
Yes. Massage tables, real
God.
estate. Let's push it. Let's go.
I'm making a note to tell
There
mom
we go.
not to listen
Okay.
to this
There we go.
Okay, all of us with wings. Is this?
This is definitely the rebirth. Yeah, all of us with wings, because he repeats it like 7 times. Like this is definitely the one of the, like, I fell in love with Perry Farrell. I think it was a Porno for Pyros song. Isn't Under the Tahitian Moon? Is that Porno for Pyros?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. That's when I like
that's Porno for
obviously
Pyros,
I
yeah.
really liked Jane's Addiction and loved it, but it wasn't, I don't think I really sort of understood, like you say, the shaman magic man under the moon kind of aspect of Perry Farrell until I heard that song, until it was like, there's just you can only
I
describe
saw
it as
them
magic.
on that tour.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw them on that tour, and they had gone surfing in Bali as a band and wrote that entire album out there, and you can just feel it in the entire album. You know, and their stage show, it was very, at the time I was a little disappointed because I liked their more aggressive stuff, and it was very mellow and kind of pulled back. Because the first time I saw Porno for Pyros was at Woodstock 94, and you could actually find the video of that on YouTube, I think. And holy Christ, they had clowns cutting their own throat with fake blood, and Perry and the guitarist Peter DiStefano were like making out at one point. It was fucking crazy. And I saw that and I was probably 19 and was like, what? It was just so over the top nuts.
Yeah.
And also so much here, but I love the band so much. That first Porno for Pyros album, the song in there, Blood Rag, which is my favorite track on the album. And I was like, this song is incredible. It's a very dark song. And I have a bootleg of early, one of the last Jane's Addiction shows. And they play that song. That was an unreleased Jane's Addiction song that they repurposed as a Porno for Pyros track. And I was like, that's why this song fucking rules so much and why it's so dark.
Yeah.
It was one that they had demoed, but had never recorded as the band, and Perry and Stephen Perkins just took it. Blood Rag on the first Porno for Pyros record is actually a Jane's Addiction song that no one has ever really heard in that form.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah, kind of neat.
All right, let's get to the erotic Jesus lays with his Marys. Go ahead.
He lays with his
I
Marys.
love that line.
Mhm.
Erotic Jesus lays with his Marys. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
And how could you not think of yourself that way? Again, I'm imagining. It's never happened to me.
Very spiritual, these three.
The hack comic in me with erotic Jesus immediately goes to a hung like this joke.
Oh yeah.
That's good. For drizzle.
But yeah, I mean, the original artwork for Ritual del Habitual too is basically that. It's like naked art drawn Jesus stuff, and was very much, that was banned at Walmart and stuff. They put a white cover with the First Amendment on it on a lot of stores.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bits of puzzle fitting each other, all now with wings. Oh, my Marys, never wonder. I like this line. Night is shelter for nudity's shiver. Yeah. How's it? There's a dialogue pointer. Next time you get lucky, whisper that in somebody's ear. Night is shelter for nudity's shiver. Ooh.
The girl's not gonna be like, what?
Yeah.
They either flee or they're like with you forever, I think.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Yeah.
There's no in between. They either join your cult.
Tweeted about.
They join your cult.
You're either the new Messiah. You're getting tweeted about. That's funny.
And all now with wings. And those are the lyrics to 3 Days. It's obviously we touched on it, but it's, I mean, it is a sad story what happened there. I mean, Perry Farrell does seem to have kind of a trail of dead heroin addicts behind him, and maybe that's where he draws his life force. I read various stories that Jane from Jane Says and also Jane's Addiction, that she was two things, either an artist, like like the muse for Jane's Addiction, or a prostitute who supported their livelihoods in the early days. And I don't know which one is true.
It was B. It was
really?
B. She was a transsexual prostitute and junkie.
And his roommate
who helped. Didn't. Oh, that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay. But she did not billfold the whole band, but would support them in a lot of ways, and just like was a big benefactor to the band in the early days. And yeah, I mean, Death as a muse with Jane's Addiction is omnipresent. It's like, well, Perry's mom killed herself when he was young. Yeah. And so that he's talked about that in interviews and stuff. And that was definitely a big a shadow cloud, I think, over him as far as the lyrics and stuff. But even like, Ted Just Admitted, talking about Ted Bundy, that song is so powerful. And so it's just, sex and death and everything in that song. It's just a frenzy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're very, very fucking unique and very California too. They're like the epitome of a California band to me.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved Jane's Addiction, and I was a huge Primus fan, and it always like shocked me that they're from California and not from like a Louisiana swamp. And that always was like, that doesn't make sense.
Totally. Yeah, that's very true until you throw in well, San Francisco is more or less where they're from, and that kind of hippie Bay acid casualty thing makes a little more sense with Primus.
Yeah.
But I just went and saw them. My buddies in the Sword opened up for Primus on their last tour, and I went and caught them, and they are still amazing.
So fun.
Incredible.
It's one of the best shows. I went and saw them. Last time I saw them, it was right before I got pregnant, so probably 9 years ago. And I was sick as a dog. I was so sick, and I was like, I'm not missing this. And I'm so glad I didn't miss it, because I mean, they just never fail to put on a good show. I love the way they open, usually with it's not Blue Collar Tweakers. What is it? Here Come the Bastards. Like, I love
Too Many Puppies. Here Come the Bastards, or Too Many Puppies usually.
Yeah. So fun. Such a fun show. I want to do a Primus episode eventually, because those are some fun lyrics too.
You should. Yeah, and also obviously Les Claypool's an incredible bass player, but Larry Lalonde is such an underrated guitarist. That dude is incredible. I mean, nobody plays like that guy does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge Primus fan for sure.
All right, this episode is going to go super long if we don't move it along, but is there any last words on this?
Sorry.
No, it
worries.
happens. I love when we have a guest who's super into the band, because then we just gush, and that's what I love doing. But before.
Yeah, I'm a music nerd even more so than comedy, so I tend to blabber. So tell me to shut up at any point.
Well, it's always that way. All comedians wanted to be musicians, and all musicians think they're comedians, and so there's always overlap like this.
Not wrong. Yep. Not wrong.
Well, let's knock this out and watch 6 Degrees of Tinted Windows and see how Jeremy Essig connects Jane's Addiction to Tinted Windows. Let's watch this together.
Hey friends, welcome to a fairly quick edition of 6 Degrees, where this week we're going to connect Tinted Windows to Jane's Addiction. As most know, in addition to fronting Jane's, Perry Farrell is also the founder of the Lollapalooza Festival, initially a vehicle to showcase Jane's farewell tour that has been a mainstay in Chicago since its re-emergence in 2005. This year, Jane's was supposed to play a reunion show at the festival, but it was canceled due to guitarist Dave Navarro's battle with COVID-19. So instead, Farrell resurrected Porno for Pyros, concluding the set with a Led Zeppelin cover featuring Chicago's own Billy Corrigan on guitar. Corrigan, of course, is best known for the Smashing Pumpkins, a band he founded with guitarist James Iha, who would also play guitar in Tinted Windows. So this week, rather efficiently, we went Jane's Addiction to Smashing Pumpkins to Tinted Windows. Back to Diane in bed.
All right, easy one.
Pretty good.
Sometimes I feel like he's cheating if he doesn't do all 6 degrees.
Yeah, sometimes he likes to stretch it and see how fun he can make it. Yeah, I had a feeling that one was going to be easy. All right, JT, I love when we have a guest, because it's the only time I ask this. Do you have a guilty pleasure song?
Yeah, this was another one that I had to rack my brain a little bit, because I didn't want to go too hipster, you've never heard of this song, but some stupid Debbie Harry B-side or something that no one's ever heard, because that's kind of cheating. But there's also a lot of pop songs that I like unabashedly, that are just, I think they're just good. But the one that popped in my head that I was just like, I really, really love this song. It's kind of a one-hit wonder, but that song 500 Miles by the Proclaimers.
But I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more to be the man who walked 5,000 miles to fall down at your door.
Love that song. Absolutely love it.
It's such a good song. It's such a catchy, and everyone, you can't sing that song and not have their weird, broguish accent added,
Yeah.
And yeah, I was a big punk rock dude growing up, CBGB's kid and everything. And there's a band from DC called Down by Law.
Yes.
And their singer Dave Smalley was a little bit of a buddy of mine, and they covered that song, and they was such a great punk rock version of 500 Miles. And there's that point where he says,
Haver.
and if I Hager or whatever, and he goes, whatever the fuck that means.
Yes.
And if I haver, whatever that means, I'm gonna be the man who's havering you. But I would walk 500 miles.
Because I I think
it's
all of
so
us were
great.
like,
And
what is
so-
he talking about? What is Haber?
Yeah, it's some Scottish, who knows, right? But yeah, I always liked that song when it came out on like the Benny and June soundtrack or whatever back in the day. And I would always put it on mixtapes and stuff. And then that punk rock version came out, and I loved that punk rock version even more somehow. So yeah, that one is kind of a guilty pleasure that whenever it pops on the radio, I have to blast it.
That's a really great one. As
Um,
soon as you said that, I was like, man, I hope he has heard the punk rock version so I get to clip both of those into this
I have.
episode. So good.
Absolutely. Yep. Down by Law. Great band. Yep.
Oh, so fun. Yeah, my husband
So that
loved
would be my pick.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this was so fun. I'm not gonna, we used to do a thing where we'd let you go and then I'd announce the song we're doing next week, but it gets all sloppy and we're all like, okay, bye. And then you're stuck in your goodbye
Yeah,
phase.
yeah, no problem.
You're gonna hang out to the very end. Before I
No,
talk
however
about
long
what
you need
song
me.
we're doing next week, any last words on Jane's Addiction or 3 Days?
Not really. I mean, I just can't really underestimate how important they were to me as a teenager, and now, they're the band that I go back to a lot. Nothing Shocking and Ritual specific, and they're the Triple X record too. Their first kind of, they call it self-titled or whatever, but that album is incredible too, with their take on Lou Reed songs, and it just Sympathy for the Devil, like just great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. They're an amazing time capsule band. Like that. Those records are flawless, and they always will be.
I'm a
Yeah.
huge Ritual fan. I love Stop. I wore out Ritual in high
Mhm.
school, and it really bums me out that I think a lot of people who only know Jane's Addiction from Been Caught Stealing. It's like the
Mhm.
beef that I
Mhm.
have with The Cure. Like everybody knows Friday I'm in Love, which is a horrible song, and I feel like so many people only know Been Caught Stealing for Jane's, and it breaks my heart because there's so much more. They're so good.
Yeah, and Big God Stealing is so not representative of the band. That was like a
No.
weird hit single. Like
Yes.
so not. I mean, it's a great song, but it's so. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying there, because it's like
There's no deep lyrics to it. It's almost like a silly
yeah,
pop song.
it's totally a silly pop song with a great goofy guitar riff.
Yeah.
And it's goofy. It's the video's goofy.
Yeah.
Everything about it is goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you on that.
Yeah.
Anytime Jane Says comes on in a bar that I'm drinking in, whoever I'm with, I'm always just like, okay, we start taking bets. Like, who's going to be the one who does She Takes a Swing? And she can't get, like, somebody's going to yell it. Who's it going to be?
There's a live
Yeah, that's the
version.
one song I don't need to hear anymore.
I know it's overplayed, but there's a live version that they do like on a beach, and Flea is playing like Congo drums or whatever. It's my favorite version because watching it live, they're on a beach, the wind's in their hair. You can tell they're just having a great night. The weather looks great, and it's the best version of Jane Says that I've ever heard. I love it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
All right. So next week, Ben, it's my turn to choose a song, and 134 episodes, and we have not done Stevie Wonder yet. So
Ooh.
Oh wow.
so I was like, I want to do Stevie Wonder, and I went through the entire discography. I've done every song, and there are some songs he did that he didn't write, and I was like, okay, I want to do one that he wrote. And lyrically, it was hard to pick because some of them I was like, well, this is just like a mushy love song. And anyway, I decided on Higher Ground. I think that's
Deal.
where we're going. So
Awesome. Great song.
next week,
So-
Stevie Wonder, Higher Ground, made not even more famous, but famous again by the Red Hot Chili Peppers when their version came out, which was really
Yeah.
fun.
Yes.
So anyway, all right, JT, at the end, we Vogue. We just say Vogue and do a Vogue move. So that's how we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much. Oh,
Well, thanks
shit.
so much for having me on.
Wait. You have to promote yourself. Where can the listeners hear and see more of you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm on tour through December with Eddie Pepitone. All my stuff is at jtcomedy.com for the most part. All the up-to-date ticket links are usually at eddiepepitone.com. I have a comedy festival in Austin called the Altercation Comedy Festival. That is running October 19th through the 22nd, and includes comics this year like Jackie Cation and Henry Phillips and Eddie Pepitone and a very secret headliner I can't talk about, and also James Adomian and many more. There's 80 comics over 4 nights. So if you're in around Austin or looking for a really fun road trip, you can go to altercationcomedyfest.com and get tickets and all the info on that. And I also sometimes my mental breakdown when I couldn't tour during COVID was I make custom action figures.
Yes.
So if you go to jtcomedy.com, there's the store link in there that you can find action figures in there sometimes, or JT Custom Toys is the Facebook group. We can look up that stuff, but yeah, that's pretty much the most of it right now. I've got a couple books on Amazon. I'm working on a new book right now too.
Awesome.
So
You got a
that'll
lot
be
of
out.
stuff going
Oh,
on.
and my new special just came out.
Yes.
I'm terrible at this. My new special just came out on 800 Pound Gorilla Records, comedy label out of Nashville, Tennessee. It's called Swamp Beast, my new hour. So you can go to 800poundgorillarecords.com and get that there. And also the vinyl is on my web store. I have green 180 gram pressed limited edition vinyl of the album that just came out 2 weeks ago. So jtcomedy.com has all the stuff.
Okay. And I'll put all the stuff in our show notes too. That's a lot. You got a lot.
Thank you
going
so
on.
much. I really appreciate you having
Thank
me
you
on. Yeah.
so much. This was so much fun. All right. Are we ready?
We're ready. And
Voguing.
Oh.
revoked.
1, 2, 3.
Rock the Cash Bar is produced by Diane Gallagher. Music by Chuck Savage and Eddie Hawkins. Special thank you to Jeremy Essig for 6 Degrees and to Sara Wessling for the Guilty Pleasures vocals. Our website is rockthecashbarpodcast.com, and there you can find links to our Spotify playlist and to our Patreon. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.